I don't know if you guys saw this, but Nikki Haley made headlines the other day when she said the United States is not a racist country, which is, pretty much par for the course for a, GOP politician who's a minority in South Carolina. Like Tim Scott, she's got to say that to get any votes at all. But she took it a step further and said, by the way, the United States has never been a racist country. And that was kind of surprising. But, that was a couple days ago. She took some time off, adjusted her hood, and got back on stage, this time with Jake Tapper, who asked her a pretty obvious question, saying, Governor Haley, you mentioned that the United States has never been a racist country, but what about the whole slavery thing? I mean, I know you're pretty familiar with it now, so wasn't that kind of racist? And then Nikki Haley does what she does best, which is to just let loose with a fire hose of just incongruent thoughts, each one, more nonsensical than the last. And I want you to watch this and then get back with me on when she answered his very clear and very obvious question. Check it out.
The White House was built with slave labor. Your home state of South Carolina seceded from the Union, fought a war to defend the enslavement of black people. I understand you don't think America is a racist country now, but we're here at a college. Do you really think as a historical matter, America has never been a racist country?
I mean, think about what you're saying. First of all, I will tell you, when you look at, the Declaration of Independence, it was that, men are created equal with unalienable rights, right? That was what we all knew. But what I look at it as is I was a brown girl that grew up in a small rural town. We had plenty of racism that we had to deal with. But my parents never said we lived in a racist country. And I'm so thankful they didn't. Because for every brown and black child out there, if you tell them they live or were born in a racist country, you're immediately telling them they don't have a chance. And my parents would always say, you may have challenges. And yes, there will be people who are racist, but that doesn't define what you can do in this country. And so I think it's important that we tell all kids that, look, America is not perfect. We have our stains. We know that. But our goal should always be to make today better than yesterday. It's hugely important. And that's the problem I have, is we have too many people with this national self-loathing. It is killing our country. We have got to go back to loving America. We are blessed because that little brown girl in that small rural town in South Carolina, she grew up to become the first female minority governor in history. She then went on to be UN ambassador, and now she's running for president of the United States. I want every brown and black child to see that and say, no, I don't live in a country that was formed on racism. I live in a country where they wanted all people to be equal and to make sure that they had life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Okay, but just to...
Ladies and gentlemen, credit where credit's due. That was an impressive amount of cowardice. Like, you don't really run across that all the time. Most people have too much shame to, do something like that. But, it's filled with the same tropes that you always have. You have a member of a minority group saying, oh, well, I made it, so I guess everything's going to be okay, with survivorship bias and everything. And, going back to the same stuff that Republicans love to say, I like that Republicans spend all of their time saying the United States is terrible. The United States is falling apart. It's degenerate. We don't take care of each other. There's crime everywhere. Everything is on fire. But don't you dare call this place racist. Though all the problems we have, it's terrible and we hate it, but we are not racist. We certainly aren't. I don't know. It's really wild. But, back to what we mentioned before, did you hear an answer in there? Like, at no point did she answer the direct question, Governor Haley, wasn't the nation racist in the past? I mean, but you're telling me slavery wasn't. So fortunately, Jake Tapper did come back on it. So let's see what he says.
Just to push back a bit, because I was a history major in New Hampshire. You're talking about the ideals of America. But America was founded institutionally on many racist precepts, including slavery.
But when you look at said all men are created equal, I think the intent was to do the right thing. Now, did they have to go fix it along the way? Yes, but I don't think the intent was ever that we were going to be a racist country. The intent was everybody was going to be created equally. And as we went through time, they fixed the things that were not all men are created equal. They made sure women became equal too. All of these things happen over time. But I refuse to believe that the premise of when they formed our country was based on the fact that it was a racist country to start with. I refuse to believe that. I have to know in my heart and in everybody's heart that we live in the best country in the world.
Well, there you have it, folks. The founding of the nation couldn't have been racist because Nikki Haley cannot bring herself to believe that it was racist. Like it's that simple. But here's the thing, Nikki. Yeah, it was. Slavery seems kind of racist. Three-fifths compromise also seems kind of racist. A thing I want to bring up about three-fifths compromise is that people like to say that, when the nation was founded, black people were three-fifths of a person. No, that is not true at all. Black people were 0/5 of a person when the nation was founded. The Three-Fifths Compromise was just, a handout to Southern states to say that, yeah, okay, we can let you count your representation in Congress. Every slave is 3/5 of a person. That's just for you and your government. Black people did not have 3/5 rights. We had 0/5 rights. The treatment of the Native Americans, kind of racist. Chinese Exclusion Act, also pretty racist. Japanese internment, goes on and on. And I'm so glad she mentioned how women gained equal rights and equality under the Constitution. Anyone remember when the nation was founded? The Declaration of Independence and all that was 1776. I believe the Constitution that we use today is 1789. Do you know when women got the right to vote? 1920. That's how long it took for this nation. So this is something conservatives like to do all the time, is that they paint this mythology of the past, and they like to credit the rights that minorities have gained over the years to the Constitution. And nothing could be further from the truth. All the rights that every minority group has gained since the founding of the nation did not come because of the Constitution. It came in spite of the Constitution. Constitution was written 1789, and for a century and a half, every minority group imaginable had to fight and struggle and claw against this brutally oppressive system that was explicitly made to make their lives miserable. And so then when, some semblance of equality is finally reached, conservatives clap, say, look, the Constitution worked. All you had to do was wait 150 years and boom, look at that. You got equal rights. It's kind of maddening. I don't really understand it. But yeah, Nikki Haley just doing it's just like nation worship and mythology. That all it is just, it's state propaganda. That's what it is, which makes it really funny that Republicans like to pretend that they're these outsiders and everything. Because think about it, like, what would state propaganda sound like? Would it sound something like, the founding fathers were good people. Yeah, I mean, sure, they made, mistakes here and there. They were human, but, they had everyone's best intentions in mind. And it's important that we listen to everything that they say. The United States has always been the good guys. The police are your friends. Like every power structure that exists, we have to defer to them at all costs. And that's everything they're going for. In fact, when they talk about minority rights and how the Constitution of the United States has always been this champion of minority rights, that's true in one instance. And that the only minority that has always been looked out for has been the rich since day one. And in fact, I'm not putting words in the founders' mouths when I say this. If you look at the writings of James Madison, there's a quote that conservatives like to use all the time where they talk about we need to fear the tyranny of the majority. They always say that because, conservatives want minoritarian rule. But that statement comes from James Madison. And I think he was writing about how he wanted to structure the Senate. And he said that the Senate he foresaw as a body in Congress that would protect the minority of the opulent, which means rich. When I'm talking to conservatives, I say the opulent means rich because they don't know, but the minority of the opulent against the tyranny of the majority. That's the only minority that has ever been looked out for since the nation's founding. It's the rich people. And, whenever they're talking about minoritarian rule, that's the rule you got right there. And, the thing that really got me is when Nikki Haley said that, we can't tell minority children that this country is racist. Like, Nikki, you don't have to. You know that. Minority children live it. We see it. You figured it out very early. So yeah, she can live in this oddly postmodern style of trying to interpret American history. It's like, yeah, I know the truth. I know their writings. I know their words. I know their very actions. But I'm just gonna pretend there's something else because it makes me feel better. Well, you go ahead and do that, Nikki. The rest of us are just gonna, have a good time here living in reality.